Call the finance committee meeting to order. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Bale.
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here.
Mr. Drexel.
Here.
Mr. Horton.
Here.
Mr. Showerman. Here. Mr. Scatella.
Here.
Mr. Winarski.
Here. It's time, if anybody from the public would like to speak? Public, Dean, are you here to speak? No. Okay. Not that I'm aware. Anybody online that wishes to speak? Seeing none, move right into item number 1. 2025 general fund budget supplemental appropriation of $150,000 for East County EMS for the purchase of an ambulance. The administration to speak for that?
Not really. I think you've said it best on your part. You guys all talked about it, I'm sure.
Sure.
So, and previously, West County was paid out through this same grant for their ambulance, right? Why are we asking to move money from general fund as opposed to coming out of the fund that's already been appropriated to pay for these things when we have a balance remaining there?
But I
It's
think
available
as
for use.
Mr. Copeland asked the same question of County Executive Davis. Right now, there's not enough money with what is being planned to be spent to use that money. So we thought the general fund would be the best place to do it.
Well, I mean, we're walking into budget time here. I don't really want to be tapping into general fund. Why can't we just pay for it out of that grant? If you have something that you're planning in the future, just come back to us. Like, we're more than supportive to,
You are supportive of that?
100%, but I'm not supportive of taking it from the general fund. No,
Go ahead.
I'm interested in everybody's.
So if we're willing to pay for this ambulance out of the established fund for now, and they come back down for the reimbursement for salaries, the scholarship, all the stuff that it's earmarked for, there's not gonna be, I mean, we're not gonna have any issue doing that. It's not gonna be a,
That money is already, I think there's enough there to cover, I really do, by the time we get to the end of the year, and maybe I'm wrong. But if we do take the money from the grant where the money exists now, right? I don't have a problem coming back, like, most of my gripes when it comes to us moving money around are just the direction that we wanna move it. We already have money in a spot that's appropriated, or we wanna keep tapping into this fund balance, and you know, I don't want to get back and forth with a difference of opinion on, you know, how much we actually think is available there for us. It just seems like the appropriate manner. You don't even need our permission for that, right? Like, you already have that money that's appropriated to you.
If that money was to be spent, correct.
It could have actually been moved weeks ago. Actually, as far back as February, when the first time the county executive, you know, went and told everybody he was giving them money and they told him to all come talk to us. Could have very well moved it at that point.
Is there granular detail for the earmarks that have been given?
Not right at this moment.
So, I mean, this is my issue. April 25th, 2023, $1 million was set aside for this specific purpose. Starting out the year, $800,000 of that same fund was still there. And like, you know, in a year and 8 months, we failed to spend this money. I find it hard to believe, or I lack the faith that this money is fully appropriated without some detail. I mean, the only thing I've ever heard is that this is earmarked. Earmarked how? For how much? To pay to who? Like, I'm also supportive of this grant. But they applied for the grant, right? The application is the public safety grant.
Yes.
And what we are awarding them is not that. And I'll go so far as to say too, like, if you can show me specific numbers and figures that you're going to give out of this grant fund to other people that's already, like, I would support this coming out of gaming the way that the original $1 million did. And to invest in the fund, but like, it's been a year and 4 months, or 2 years and 4 months. The $1 million has sat there and not been spent. I keep hearing this emergency, 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 and then like we don't actually invest the money we already gave. Is that not a fair critique? Like,
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All Chair. 27 days is going to have us a budget. They give things supplemental that hasn't been budgeted for, especially in life. Conversation just now. I think you should be coming down here with any request. I think you should put it in the budget if he wants to take something out of it.
we've been given a false choice. That if council doesn't approve this, that they go without. And that's a lot. A lot. There is money there in a line item for this purpose right now, today, that the administration could today access to pay out these funds. The check could literally be granted overnight without any council intervention. Am I wrong? Your department administers those funds.
As the finance director said, there are funds in the public safety grant fund. Some are earmarked, some are under grant contract, and some are intended.
But 2 months ago, we gave $170,000 to Fairview for these same purposes.
Right. from
What
that
has
fund.
changed from July to now?
I don't think that clear answer, but I know that there's intent to invest those dollars with EMS agencies throughout your county.
We spent $3,000 from that same fund for a broadband study from the Northwest Division last year.
Not from that fund, that was
It's
from the,
very clearly in the budget, there's, that, or like on an open checkbook, you can see an expense from that line item for $3,000.
then that was a mistake. That was supposed to come from broadband is under the category of municipal water sewer broadband and the ARPA. So there might have been a transaction that hit the wrong fund. This is transformational grants for fire and EMS, that fund you're speaking of. So there might have been a mistake in the way that was accounted for, but it should have come out of that because that's a broadband category on ARPA.
But, you know, last year we paid out $100,000 for studies.
Mhm.
Nearly, it's like 89, 90 somewhere. $3,000, it was or wrongly, on the wrong line item.
I'll check that.
And we've had 4 payments to West County EMS. Is that the reimbursement?
Wage reimbursement,
Okay.
that's kind of paramedic.
And then $170,000 for Fairview. So far, West County has been the only recipient of actual investment of equipment and reimbursement.
For equipment, yes. We used funds not in this particular,
Get 32,000 to Mill Creek. What was that?
yeah, that's a study for Mill Creek paramedics. We also had a study to this East County or South County. The South County, Wattsburg, Waterford, that area is under study, $44,000 for that. Each of those areas that we're working in, including East County, EMS, and South County, we complete the study and then we use the funds to help them to implement the recommendations from the study. So that's some of the reserving of the funds that we can help those agencies, including East County EMS. They've advanced and expanded to include being the ALS provider for Greenfield, Northeast Township, and Northeast Borough this year. It's first time. So we know that they may need some help once they get this new ambulance on the streets to staff that ambulance. So some of those funds are intended to help them to be able to pay for staffing and reimburse for those costs.
What is our annual commitment for reimbursement?
Commitment? What do you mean?
I mean, we're committing for
Projected
reimbursement,
revenue.
right? Like how much are we projected to spend annually? On,
Per each EMS agency or for the,
just as general, do you think it's $500,000 that we're spending a year for reimbursement, $1 million? Like, this is a commitment, right? Like, they're
No, we
submitting
don't,
receipts to us and then we,
no, we do the same process with everybody where they apply they apply through an grant application and tell us what they're gonna use the funds for.
Right.
And then the dollar amount that they are requesting, then they have eligible things that are in their grant application, and they submit until they reach the dollar amount that the grant is awarded for. So in the case of West County, they have a $150,000 grant for reimbursement of salaries. Once they hit that, they're done. They're on their own. The intent is that they carry on the costs beyond that. This is a seed to help them get started.
So there are grant applications with specific asks that are awarded, but not necessarily delivered, right? Because they haven't
Because they have
done the things for the
incurred the
reimbursement.
expense that will be
So
reimbursed. Yeah.
what is that commitment for awarded grants today?
The currently awarded grants.
Yeah.
We have probably 100,000 due to West County at this point for reimbursement of grants. We have some outstanding on the South County study. Approximately 10 grand is owed to that consultant. And then the rest is put aside for when they complete their implementation of the studies and then come in for those grant dollars for staffing. They've not yet done that yet, but that's intended.
200,000?
I can't say that. I can't say for sure. I mean, we, like East County, for instance, we get them the new ambulance. I don't know what it costs to run that ambulance. They have to apply. They have to tell me. They have to say, Jessica, it's gonna cost me 150,000 a year to staff that ambulance. And they put in that app, they put in the explanation, and then we're able to support them. They send their payroll and every quarter, and then we make sure that it's accurate to what they are using the funds for. So
Just want to remind this body, since ARPA was, I wasn't gonna say it, but you know, there were $3.5 million clawed back from the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Commission. Part or in whole funded that whole thing. So I just want to put that out there. All counties received their own appropriation. DEIC fund was rated in the same manner that the Game and Revenue Fund was rated. In the same manner, when we sat here in the administration, sat right there, told us that if the Game and Revenue ran out, we'd have to figure out how to pay that 1/3 that the county's on the hook for, knowing that the only way to really pay for it would be property taxes. The same things that they fought against the college for a decade. I just want to kind of put that out there.
I mean, yeah, the gaming's already given, that's 100 grand of this is already coming from gaming. So it's really only 150,000 coming from transformation of that.
We're proposing the general fund.
I know what you're proposing, I'm telling you what I'm willing to accept.
Yeah, there's a pile of money that's already been set aside and we're being asked to add to the pile.
Thanks.
I respectfully, I would like you guys to have the grant. I can't make you, right? Unless there's some way that we can restrict a portion of that money for these purposes. But like, pay the grant, and when you run out of the money that's taken 2 years and 4 months to spend, we can discuss adding to it. But like, it's 2 years and 4 months for $1 million. Spend it on staples.
Slush fund.
This is
Mr.
my,
Chair.
oh, go ahead.
It's a bit like a
Yes,
slush
sir.
fund.
It's been a hallmark of this administration for the last 4 years to ask for money, to receive the money from council and not do anything with it. And we have many examples of that throughout the year. Andre just brought one up with DEI. There's another one with helping out the homeless. Look at the $2.3 million from the GAP, the $2.3 million GAP money that the administration spent this year in February without council knowing about it. And it came from the GAP fund, which council had deleted last fall. But that GAP fund money, correct me if I'm wrong, has been laying in there for 3 or 4 years. And none of it went out, or very little, none of it went out. There was 4 million or more that county council moved out of that GAP fund to other sources. And the county executive finally decided to give $2.3 million to these municipalities. What was he doing over the last several years with that money, and why didn't it go out before? And why did it even go out after the ARPA money was supposed to have been spent by the end of the year? You could go on and on. As far as the ordinances that county council passed at Mr. Horton's recommendation, namely $1.5 million for DEI and $1 million for the
CCN shelters.
for the homeless. The executive did not, the executive never signed and approved that, arguing that only he could approve the monies. But then eventually, and I don't even know the concept.
And it was approved by 5-2 vote.
Well, I know, but he never signed, he never approved of it,
You're right.
except that he eventually did in November of last year. He signed it, and he sent $500,000 to Charlie Barber to purchase a bunch of houses, little houses next to the prison. And nothing's been done with those houses. But this administration has a tendency to predict everything in the future. And it asks for money for things it has not expensed yet. And even in this particular case, it has plenty of money to pay for this. Why would it ask for more money to pay an expense when it already has the money? And very little of that money has been spent on any expenses. Which should happen, and I recommend council do this, is council does not have a good grasp or understanding on how these grants are determined to be, how these applicants are determined to be eligible. It's unfortunate, but there should be regulations in the administrative code defining the requirements that an applicant has to meet in order to become eligible for a grant. That eliminates the possibility of the administration, this or any other administration, awarding grants to areas of the county that he prefers or she prefers,
Should be.
or grants to my friends or anything like that. I think the council should obtain a complete audit and history of all of the grant monies that have been going out over the last several years. Secondly, as far as the accounting method, Ms. Horan articulates a fair accounting approach to handling these applicants, especially those where there are construction contracts that may go on for a year or something, and how the money might be paid out, and when the administration should come over here and ask for appropriations. That should be looked at from an accounting standpoint as well. And regulation should be laid down as to when that money should be spent. When does the administration decide that they need the money for the contract? When the person satisfies the eligibility, or when the person does what's necessary to get other funding or do other things first before getting the money from council. All of that should be reviewed and tightened up so we have a better system to rely on.
I'm gonna, go ahead, Charlie.
I think with regards to the EMS, there's some issues that we're not addressing. So there was a plan, or an attempted plan to make it countywide. So some of the reason that the money hasn't been spent is because,
Well, please tell me, because we didn't give more.
no, I'm saying because the plan has, it's constantly evolving. Now you see West County and East County, it was supposed to be a countywide initiative. So now you're seeing some of these spinoffs with smaller entities to regionalize, but to maximize the money that we're giving them. And that's again with the GAP fund. The reason, in my eyes, a lot of it wasn't spent, it was looking to leverage funds. Anybody can go out and just spend the money, and we have a great history of that. And that's wrong. It's intentional to be able to get as much bang for our buck as we can. And that's the whole point of these agencies coming together. So not spending it, putting it away, so until you knew what the actual expenditures were and what it looked like, makes perfect sense. It doesn't make sense to go out and just spend it because you have it. There's a plan, and it's evolving.
There never was buy-in. There never
Not a
was.
buy-in? I
There
mean,
there
we've
never
got
was
Mr.
buy-in from
Petrosello
the,
here,
from the
I think he
EMS.
could probably speak to it.
It wasn't everybody,
Well,
they
so
thought West County.
There's buying.
That's why you have all these separate.
It's taking time, it's taking time,
Yeah,
but
that's why,
It's
that's
moving
the
forward.
evolving part of it, still trying to use the money as a slush fund to bring in people and indiscriminately. And to Tom's point, I think that you're absolutely right. It would add another layer of transparency. But I happen to talk to a few of them guys at EMS too. And I know Lawrence Park wasn't really fully all off into all of that. When I talked to, what's his name, Chief out there in my conversation a year ago. And so when you say it's evolving, I take that to mean we're still trying to pull these other groups in. Because right now, I don't see it.
well, we've taken that time to pull them in
Yeah.
and realize the plan, because it didn't take place over the entire county, just like South County is doing now.
Well, by your description, you have kids in college. You're helping pay for the school, so, you know, what if you paid up front for your child's tuition? And then they just said, you know what, Dad, I'm not going to college, but I'll pocket the money. And they come back to you a year later and say, hey, Dad, I need some money to go to college.
So where they pocketing it, it's only going. to
No, I'm just saying that, like, if you already
I think
gave
the
them money
argument's
for a
invalid.
purpose, and they didn't use that money for the purpose, and then had the audacity to come back and ask for more, wouldn't you say, hey, what happened to the money that I already gave you?
They're not intentionally withholding that money for
You
any,
just said they were.
no, I'm
Because
saying,
there's
yeah,
no
I'm saying, but
consensus.
you're making it sound like it's for some nefarious, or they're hiding it, like he's using the word slush fund. It's not a slush fund, it's used to pay for, we talk about paying for services for the county. We're not gonna have- we're paying for the most important life-saving service.
We should spend the money that we've already appropriated before we ask for more.
I think that you're encouraging them to spend it before, you know, because that's what's gonna happen, then they're gonna be.
I said
spending
that's
it
What
on-
should happen.
It's the Ronald Reagan Republican account. Okay. Is there consensus to move this forward?
Vote it up or vote it down.
Dude, where are you at on this?
Obviously, ambulance service is needed, but there's money in the fund to use that money first.
The need for the ALS services out of my district, right? Mr. Pepsillo is gonna be doing this is huge. I understand that. I understand, you know, what's going on. And yes, we are coming up with new unique ways, because the original plan of doing the taxing body, the EMS authority, was rejected. There was no buy-in from council on that as a whole, right? And at CCAP, that was actually overwhelmingly rejected by all the other commissioners in a pretty staggering vote, like 9-1, that they did not want to allow counties to do a taxing EMS authority. So we come up with different plans, and this is where we're at. We're West County, and now they're servicing. We're talking about South County is working together. That has been the message all this time. I've talked to, you know, whether it's, you know, township supervisors or EMS or fire departments, they wanted to come up. They had plans that they've been working on, and yes, it's different entities that are working on. It's not one unit, but this is going to benefit Erie County.
I don't disagree.
We already have the money. Why are we delaying it farther? You want to put on us that we're risking lives, right? Because we don't want to put this forward. That's the county executive's words. Just, I saw you look up, and we don't have to quote that. It came out of his mouth on several occasions in the last week. So we're risking lives by not moving this forward, but he could appropriate this money, just move it himself. It's already there. So who's really putting the community at risk here for whatever gain, as he calls political gain? We're playing the political game. He's got the money already. He could pay for this, but he chooses to point fingers at across the aisle, right? And we're risking lives. I could show you, listen to Joe Natale's show. It's on there, right? It's been quoted in
a lot more.
several places. So my argument here is why doesn't the administration just move forward and stop risking lives? Right, as he put it, and pay for it out of that fund. You come back to us and you have a legitimate situation, and I will always give money to back EMS or fire. But if you wanna appropriate those dollars from somewhere that it shouldn't come from, especially in the general fund, where, if it's already somewhere else, I'm not gonna go to the general fund. You wanna take from gaming's already given $100,000.
Right.
Well, in this case, in this project, there's $100,000, so,
Oh, you're telling.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, like, you know, they've already given their part, and that's not the money that they gave to the county, that's coming from ECHR, still taxpayer dollars. But let's move forward, I mean, I'm not voting for this in the way it is. If you wanna take it from the regular fund, that's fine.
I don't wanna wait 2 weeks, right? Cause that's,
No.
we have to go to a second read to appropriate the money, like.
No,
like-
just spend it,
Give
and
them a
come back
check
to us
next
when you
week.
need something.
And Jessica, I mean, this, if you have additional monies that you are incurring because of other grants, right? If by the end of the year, here we are in the 8th month, still over half the money left, well over half. If you run short, you have my commitment to appropriate, to fill all of our obligations this year. But the money's, I need it to be demonstrated that the money's actually being spent. All right, I'm not interested in moving this forward.
We're gonna pull it.
We're pulling it.
The administration has the right to.
Administration could still demand
Because
they
they
have
have
put on, if they wanna wait another 2 weeks for an up and down vote, by all means, but like, I'd rather you guys just pay the check out. Like,
Well, you could put it to a second read next week and vote it no.
I thought about doing that in the last meeting for one of the ordinances, it didn't really seem to make sense. It'd just be like a demonstration of how much it pisses me off.
Not to get afraid of this, but going back to the CCAP vote, that was a countywide tax, and they weren't against taxing for EMS. They were against putting it at the county level. They want it left at the municipal level.
Which would be
And we are the
consistent
county
with
level,
state law,
so,
because it's
yeah.
the same way with state police services, AKA EMS services. If a municipality wants those services, they should pay for them. It's because it amounts to another unfunded mandate from the state. And I think, again, I don't think any supplemental appropriations from the general fund should come down in these last 30 days. You should put it in we should put it in the budget. That you're gonna hand to us October 1st. And I say that because the state still have an impasse. We still haven't gotten that budget. We've had discussions at our last several meetings with our accountant about increasing our prudent reserve, which I think that we should still do as a safety net for the county. And so I don't think, just from certainly I'm just one of 7. But it's kind of foolish to bring down some stuff, and he's gonna give us a budget in 27 days.
Mr. Chair, let me,
Can I, for just a moment, because we spent a half hour on one item.
it was a procedural.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, what do you plan on doing? Is the administration gonna pull this, or are you gonna vote on it?
No, we're not pulling it.
Okay. Well, at next Tuesday's meeting, you could move for a second reading on it, to amend the agenda, and put it on for second reading. And then vote on it.
I really, like, let's just keep it check. Like, I don't understand.
I would, yeah, I mean, certainly we can vote on moving it to a second. But I would prefer to leave it as the first. Because I think if the administration is throwing those phrases around, that we're endangering lives. I think that the community should see what's on the table, and they should understand what we're voting and why it's relevant. I don't think we should brush over. I don't think we should brush through it. It shouldn't be we should add that other layer of transparency.
I would like to see what the funds in the grant are earmarked for. so that when it comes back down later, we know that that was this.
We'll work on that for you.
How much is totally in there? You know, what is the balance?
What's your 30 something? 573. Okay, let's move on, or at least that's. Moving on to item number 2, 2025 planning fund budget supplemental appropriation of $601,000 for Act 13 Greenways grant distribution. Yes.
Council, you have 9 proposed grant applications for the Greenways Grant Fund. We did provide you those, the applications. The applications are in your packet, or in your.
We look at the applications themselves. Got the
Yep, in the
application
packet.
for. We got the application for the public safety. We have,
I found that
you gave
packet
us.
off your website.
You gave us, this is what I was gonna ask you for, was actually the grant applications. You gave us like the totals and a little blurb about it, but not the actual filled out applications. I have.
You don't have them. I pulled them off of your packet, off of the county council webpage. I think they're on the, this was printed for the meeting, that information will be in your packet. But I can brief you on each, but the applications will provide it.
Well, that was good, something I was gonna ask you for, so.
They have them. And I have
Okay.
one that was missing from the packet was Washington, or was, sorry, the,
Okay,
ballpark, that one. I do have copies of those if you want to add those 2 packets. That's, there's a copy, yes, I think for everybody. But these are, there's our 9 grant applications that we would like to award on Fairview. That's for pickleball courts at Pleasant Ridge Park. That's some of my glasses, sorry. Washington Township is for power and Wi-Fi at Wayner and Inspiration Parks. Summit Township has a Picnicana Park upgrade that they have a need for a little bit of additional funding. I'm sorry, I should have said this. All of these Act 13 are Greenways funds. These are 4 Greenways. That's what they're for. And they and all of the applications are supposed to be to fill a gap, that there's a gap, that they have other funding, but they don't have complete funding. So for instance, Fairview Township has a DCNR grant and a DCED grant. Washington Township has an ECHA grant. Summit has a DCNR grant. So these are gaps in their total funding package. Green Township is a trail expansion that they've been working on out there at the township building outside there. They have a nice park, nice trails there. Albion is for the pedestrian bridge that we walk essentially we walk the animals from where at the fairground, at the Albion Fairground, from where the barns are onto the fairground property. That is they also applied for a multimodal grant to help support that project. Edinburgh Borough has a park improvements project here. They also have ECHA funds and borough funds in the project. Westerville has a Morrison Park project. That project, they have a DCNR grant, an amount of $60,000. They're looking for match, the required match. The McLean Little League's the one I just sent around to you that has turf for the ball fields. And then the final project on the list is the Gerard Hotel property in Gerard Borough. They have several grants for that, the Trinity Foundation and ECRA, but they're looking to fill the gap there in their total project.
this was put on our agenda Friday. How does McCain's grants application come in Monday, but they're on our agenda Friday?
There was a request, but it wasn't formal, and I asked that they actually complete the application. I knew of the request and I knew that of the project, but absent having an application, we don't feel like you really complied with the expectations, so we asked them to complete that. And they did. None of the grants that come through the planning department go without applications or with grant agreements. And we can't build a grant agreement if I don't have an application to know what the project is and how the dollars will be spent.
we have any grants that have been applied for that have been rejected?
There have been grants that have been, rejected simply generally because they ended up having enough funding from other sources. For instance, Mill Village Borough got a Parks grant through DCNR. They had also applied for a grant from us, but they didn't need it once they received their DCNR grant. We did award some grants last year in this category. We didn't award any this year because the line item, the tax grant line item was zeroed out, so obviously we've not
You
done.
have the fund, like, the revenue of this year?
Yeah,
The only thing that was eliminated was the fund balance appropriated. So you still had
The
200,
past grant line, oh.
so roughly whatever that grant line is, like 256 or something like that.
250
Something like that?
Usually put it.
I don't know
Right.
perfectly.
Last year, we gave out grants, the Union City Ball Field was this year, under that other line item. And then last year, we gave grants to Harbor Creek for a pickleball court, to Veterans Park up by Collegiate Academy to do sidewalk paths around there, around those memorials. And we did a grant to Union City for Catholic and Devereaux Parks for a walking trail in those parks. That's last year's grant. I'd have to look back through to see if there are any applications that are still pending. These ones were prioritized because they've been waiting a long time. They have some funding and there's a gap that's kind of keeping them from being able to fully complete the project.
Can you get us those other grant applications?
These
The
grant
other ones?
applications,
Yeah, the other.
these ones, or the,
Like I said, when I saw this come up, I didn't see it in the materials, the actual application.
Yeah, we don't.
I can go verify, but I think it was omitted from the printing of the meeting today, but it should be on your electronic version.
that's where I put it from, because I got
Well,
the
I
whole
think
pack.
Megan sent me the item, like the preview, and she must not have attached that. Any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I did circulate a legal memo with everybody. So in order to grant this, you have to go against the board.
Are we not able to come to an agreement if we decide as a body that there's 4 votes that we would like to approve this, that a new stipulation could be reached with the judge because 2 sides, the administration and council, are agreeing that these are worthwhile projects?
You have to amend the order. Go to the judge. Or another stipulation, similar to what was prepared when council agreed February to permit the administration to pay the 3 jobs that council eliminated through the end of the year. That was an amended order and a stipulation that was entered into. But at the same time, injunction or a stay was issued, precluding the administration from spending any money the council had deleted in its budget of 2025. That's the order that stands today. Applies to this particular Greenways money, which was, and I referenced the article, the paragraph in the complaint, deleted by council and moved to another program.
Is it your advice that we do not do that?
Well, it's my advice that we don't do that. We've been battling this for 3 years, and the administration has never cooperated since one time. And we have gone ahead and cooperated with the administration on several occasions. I don't know I would assume that the administration knows that this money has been stayed. Soon, I mean, but we have a oral argument tentatively scheduled in November on this issue. I would assume that the county solicitor and the administration knows that these green waste monies were stayed pursuant to the court order in June of this year. So there's a couple of orders that are outstanding with regard to this. So I find it hard to believe that the administration is not aware of this. And if the administration is aware of this, what is it doing asking for money from council? On the other hand, if the administration forgot about it, that's a better story than in which case. You know, you really don't, your hands are tied. Now you could untie them by going to the administration. Again, you're coming upon another budget, another month. You're bending over backwards if you want me to go to court to get this changed.
So I'm generally speaking not a big fan of setting aside large amounts of money for grant funds with very generically named purposes. You know, the $2.5 million in EMS, there was more argument given to the sessions that Davis went to speak to all the different communities about what's in the budget. Very little argument to the council as to justify why that expense was there. And I was really concerned that we were putting the entirety of our fund balance into a single line item without a lot of justifications, exactly where it would go, how that process works. In the past, when Wesleyville came and advocated for their funding, just the same way that the ball field in Union City did in our budget meeting. And I said, hey, you know what? I actually think that you justified the expense to me, right? Like I've heard from the people, heard the need, and like agreed. Now, I'm not a fan of moving 9 of these forward without hearing from only 2 of them, right? I don't like awarding all at one time. I'd rather separate them out to multiple votes, personally. But I mean, I've said to Wesleyville more than a few times, if Davis brings up a supplemental appropriation, generally favorable to it.
I think one of the key is they're unlocking a ton of money. I mean, when you're talking about a $600,000 investment, and they're unlocking almost 2.3. And this money is specifically meant for this. It's not going anywhere else. Only people that were harmed by not putting that back out is the people in the county.
And the rest of the citizens of Erie County who have everything riding on the 23, 24, 25, and possibly 26 litigation surrounding the budget and the way that the administration is at. And I would say that I would recommend that we heed our solicitor's advice. And why would we bend over like that? And we're having an oral argument in November, and the administration knows what it's doing.
I would say at minimum, I would be very supportive to plug in by line item, specific line item, each of these projects in the new budget. I would certainly commit to that.
I'm not committing to anything in the new budget until we see the budget, and I think it's folly to do so, considering that we don't even know what the state budget is going to be. Considering that we haven't received a balanced budget on October 1st and October 23, 24, 25, and that we're having this discussion. And I think that, and to ask our attorney to go to court to ask him to undo this, 27 days before budget is crazy.
Jessica, can this money be used for anything else?
No, this is after Team
It's not-
Marcellus
it
Dale
has to-
Greenways,
Correct, so it's strictly, it
sits.
can only go to these type of
Parks,
projects.
Rec,
That's
and
it.
Open Spaces.
Right.
But it's already being, it's being held by the courts. It's got an injunction against it.
Yeah,
We
but
did not go against the budget.
If
We're
there's
not.
any way we can lose this money by it not being,
No. Tom, are you positive that without the consent, that if both parties consent, that this
No,
can't
he
be
said we
spent
could,
this
and we
way?
both agreed.
No, again, we would have to prepare another stipulation and.
If
go
both
to
parties
court
consent, we could spend this money in this manner.
And get the judge to issue an order.
Just-
Both parties haven't consented.
Well, I'm
the entire
just
time.
asking, but Tom said we couldn't, so I'm just asking,
I mean, he
Yeah,
has,
Steve.
he has
Well, no.
been
Oh,
in
no, he didn't say
opposition
that.
since
That's
the
not what he
beginning.
You
said.
said you couldn't without that.
Yeah,
Without the consent of both parties.
And
And
without
it's
going to
stipulated
court.
order by
The
the court.
injunction keeps the administration keeps paying, but if
Yes.
you guys agree.
100%, but we
Tom
have
is
no
saying we
interest
need all
in
to-
doing that at this, at least I have no interest in doing that at this point. He hasn't operated in good faith in any of the budgets in the past 3 years, and now you come to us and want us to operate in good faith with you, like, I'm sorry. We've been burned enough times by this administration, I'm not, I have no interest in going to negotiate before we get an order from this judge.
And the
We have this-
injunction does not, it actually prevents us from doing anything too,
Yeah, 'cause we
without
both
going back,
agree.
sending him back to court to undo it. Yeah,
But that would be the will of council.
Let's discuss that more at the next one.
I'm not discussing that, you guys can discuss it. We're 27 days out of budget, I think it's folly to go back to court. And that's our solicitor to go back when we have oral arguments in November. And then we're 27 days out from the budget, and the administration has not acted in good faith in anything.
If council wants to open the door again, it has the ability to do that. I have the ability to go into court and get a stipulation signed by Bill Spiros, et cetera, and then ultimately the judge. But it really is, sitting from my impartial legal standpoint, it becomes ironic when council pursues a course of action, but then constantly backs off of it. And I don't know why it does that. In a case like this, you always have, in this particular instance, the applicants to be concerned about. And nobody wants to defund the applicants and things like that. So I agree with council wholeheartedly in being sympathetic with some of the applicants and their receipt of the money. But on the other hand, you have to find your core decisions and follow them. You're a legislative body that makes policy, and you're supposed to influence the administration. And sometimes you have the wherewithal and intention to do so, but you very often back off of it. And the problem is that the administration takes advantage of that. He doesn't see you as, he sees you as giving in. And
Well,
that should change.
for my part, please don't take offense to this. This is not about you or your department. But as a county, I think that our grant-making policies, if you can call it that, are unethical. Just a couple weeks ago, the county executive approached people at the school district and offered them $100,000 in Ainsworth Field. And imagine their surprise because they never asked for it. They said, what are you talking about? For what? To do what? And they've basically rejected that because they're like, well, we didn't even ask for it. And in the case of this fund, I was really concerned about just setting aside $1 million for purposes to be determined. I do appreciate the work that they've done in terms of enumerating what the grants are, seeing applications. And yes, no one is as bitter towards Davis than I am. I can promise you that. But I still think that people that work in the planning office are doing the work, trying to evaluate the needs. I'm not so sure about the rubric of how they're rated and judged and whether those judgments continue to get pushed through. But I don't, I'm just saying that not everything that happens in these walls is at the behest of Davis. And, yeah. But we move on to the next item. Moving on to number 3, Addressing the consequences of a missed Commonwealth budget deadlines. This is a letter whose format was given to us by CCAP. Ellen spoke about that at our last finance meeting to talk about, they're asking all counties to run a similar resolution, word it in our way that we want to word it. Basically calling on the state to do their job and pass a budget. I do think that's a nonpartisan message. I'm sure many of us point fingers in different directions of who's at fault, but like, I suspect that the pain is hurting us a lot more than what we're being told right now. We're not getting a lot of that feedback from the administration to know exactly what's missing and where today. But any thoughts or comment about moving this letter forward?
It's just kind of, they know their job. Governor knows what he can do to hold them accountable. They know what they can do to hold each other accountable. Sending them a letter, well, I understand. You know,
I mean,
they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and our letter's not gonna change things in my eyes. But I understand the solidarity and everything. I just don't think it proves to be. They're going to do what they do.
Probably right.
Yeah, and that's,
But-
I understand it, I get it.
None of us were here in 2015 and 2016 except for Andre. Watching them scramble, doing supplemental appropriations to, I mean, I watched all those meetings with the door. I mean, watching them literally scramble to try to fund the programs because of the money that the state hadn't given up. And, well, what's our status? Like, what money hasn't been paid to us? I hear that the community college missed a quarterly payment. You know, $300 million was hung up in DHS money. Like, where's our impacts today?
We have money until probably November, or not, December, January. We're going to pay for everything.
From the state, we're receiving
Yeah, so we're
reimbursements and
hoping, you know,
Medicaid and all that
that
stuff is
they
still
all
flowing.
get this together in the next couple of weeks, a month.
You see, we have
Yesterday-
no impacts rate so far?
yesterday, so- No,
None. The community college, they missed their payment from the state?
probably, you know,
Board is telling me.
I'll look into that. Yeah, no, maybe the
Like-
state payment, maybe there's.
I mean, if this did,
Dr. Gray can call me and say, oh, I need some more money.
no, they have a fund balance, right?
Yeah.
So they're solvent, but they're missing a big chunk of money from the state.
Other 14.
Back when this happened in 15, I was here, I mean, we were able to go about December, like Paul said, we have the cash. The cash is the fund balance.
Right.
So December, January would be very, very dicey. Then we would be in trouble, just what you said.
Our fund balance is considerably lower than
Like-
that.
I acknowledge
Back
we
then,
we knock
Yeah.
heads from time to time, but like, if we're in that situation, like, we gotta work very collaboratively. Like, I really hope that you guys are communicating and letting us know where we're hurting. I mean, when that letter came out from the governor of all this monies that they're, or it was the Secretary of Health or something like that, that sent that letter out about monies that were being held up, like, if we're short, thank reimbursement from the state, please.
We'll let you know, absolutely.
It literally keeps me up at night. Okay. Moving on. Alright. Last meeting, I really flipped out over CCAT voting rights. Turns out the administrative code actually deals with this. Any external organization where the county has to be represented, that's CCAP, NACO, wherever it is. It's already defined in the administrative code. It says the executive or the chair of council would appoint people and be confirmed by council. In the 40-year history of this county, we've never butted heads so bad that we had to try to remove voting rights from council people. I'm just putting up a resolution to approve the people that have appeared to be interested. Right? Ellen goes to every meeting. Christian, I've been wanting to be involved. Charlie talked about being interested in being participating in meetings and voting.
He always has.
And of course, Mr. Davis. I'm asking that we submit this as an official roster for Erie County, so who represents us.
And my recommendation is that we don't even do this. There is no voting in the.
Now we're doing this.
There is a-
I'm extremely aggrieved.
There's no business meeting, and there's no voting.
Okay, so I'm supposed to just go to whatever the next voting, I'm trying to establish a
We got
precedent.
summer.
Trying to establish a precedent here, because our membership to external organizations is supposed to be approved by council, period. And like, we've just never done that. We've just never had a resolution to say, here's who it is. And the executive took it upon himself to define who that is. And I want the precedent in place. What I originally wrote was an ordinance to define the exact timing of when that would be declared, which would be the first meeting after the reorg. We backed off of that a little bit. But I mean, I think we need the precedent to say, from now on, whoever represents us at external organizations has to be approved by council. It's in the administrative code. We ought to actually do what it says in there.
It just means nothing because there is no voting. in the. And I think it also referred to November as the legislative conference, and the legislative conference is in the spring. Fall is just called the fall conference.
But in spring, we will be able to, this will not. Like, why wouldn't we pass
Because
it
there's
now?
an election in November.
Then we
The
can
names
amend
say-
it right before spring. It's easier to amend it.
I really think that at each calendar year, the chair of council should specifically point out and approve. I requested this orders because there were 5 people that were already interested in participating. But I think the
You
chair
can do
should,
this now, then, once we organize the chair.
I
whoever
just
gets
think
something out.
the
Chair
way
should-
it's worded, it just makes it look like we don't know what we're doing because there is no vote.
do you think it was right for the director of administration to have voting rights over an elected official? Is that a position you would defend?
I don't know why those rulers except that he always goes and he always votes. Charles always is at the business meeting and votes. And I always go and I always vote. And then you guys said you voted in the past. So the only way that happened is if he put your name down because he knew you were going.
Don't think
So
anybody
contrary
else
to
can
what the administrative code is, you believe that the county executive selects what our voting representation. Contrary to what it says in the text of the administrative code.
I've actually
I'm
gone,
not voting there. I said that if you voted in the past, then he knew you were going and you would get on and vote.
I forgot to
But
think
if
that.
you don't go or you don't get on and vote, you lose 2 votes.
well, I haven't gone in quite a few years. But when I did go, with the Dalton administration, we see the chair of county council and the county executive discussed who was going prior to, well ahead of time, by the reservations. Choice to go, but we don't have that type of relationship with the administration now.
So it might help if you go as well.
You were going the whole time because it's on the council calendar. Rock, Chris, CCAP, it's all there for months.
Does he read the county council calendar? I don't.
He doesn't unilaterally get to decide, is what I'm saying.
In every other place in the administrative code, whether it's an executive appointment to a board or authority, it always says and confirmed by council. And how do we do that in effect? We pass a resolution giving our approval as to what that is. Now, if there's not actual voting rights in the fall, I don't really care. I want to establish a precedent that we actually do this. It says in the administrative code, we approve who our representatives are. I think we ought to do our job.
Versus waiting until January.
And in January, we have a reorg and that membership can change.
see a lot of changes, but I don't see a lot of changes.
No? You know,
I see one. So. Your max, 61.
Yeah, the next three items, parcel repository sales, the one is tabled. I tried to call, gentleman with two first names, George Joseph, yeah. He might play phone tag a little bit, we can connect, hopefully we will soon. I'm just as ready to on table, just approve it, who cares? And if there's nothing else, do you want to do an executive session? Slider? Legal advice?
Yeah, we could.
Set the motion for going to executive session. Thank you.
We didn't go into it the right way.